Hello, hi. I'm happy that you are with me right now, and I just have a few questions to start our conversation about our life as a contract faculty as partial load. I wonder if you be happy to share something about yourself or your experience in general about Seneca College, whatever details you wanna share, you're welcome to. And if you wanna get more specific into, how it has affected, for example, your personal life, your family life, or your relationship with your students, or your colleagues, you're welcome to. And any thoughts really that you might have about how it feels to work as a partial, or what you have seen in the college, in the department where you work, whatever you might wish to share with us. Welcome.
Good morning, and thank you so much for giving me, let's say, this platform to talk about, my own experiences in the past 10 years that I started, teaching at Seneca College. So back then in 2015, September, I got, a contract as part-time for 3 hours. And then immediately after that, let's say, 3 hours contract, I was called, by the School of Continuing Education to teach in their TESOL certificate program and teaching, specialized course, which is my expertise at actually, linguistics, to the students who wanted to be teachers in the future. So generally speaking, I can tell you that I joined Seneca College in 2015 and starting, my job as a part-time, let's say, contract faculty. At that time, when I got, the email, the official email that, oh, you've been hired. You know what hiring for me in this context, back to what I had experienced, before in my home country, Iran. So back then, when you are hired, it means that that's a full-time job. But here, when I got the concept of, oh, being hired, I said that, okay, Mitra, you've been the luckiest one. But then I got, gradually that how the system is working. So permanent full-time faculty is one story, but for the part-timers or sessional instructors, this is, different story. So then I got to know the differences between, part-time, that you are only allowed to teach between 3 to 6 hours with no benefits, and this is, hourly paid. Then if you are the luckiest one to get, a partial load contract, which is, the minimum of 9 hours and the maximum of 12 hours, and then you're going to have, a half benefit, let's say, insurance package coming with. And then if you teach, more than 12 hours, 15 to 18, then you're going to be, sessional instructor, which means apparently gaining, more money, but no benefits. Honestly, no one told me about these at the beginning. So to be honest with you.
So they hire you, but they didn't specify any of the details or categories.
Nothing. And this is, only my curiosity. And then, hearing from other colleagues. And then one thing that really, motivated me and, opened my eyes towards these differences was my first experience attending the strike in 2017. And I do remember very well that I was, at Seneca at York. It was, I think, November, very, very cold. And we had, to march and to do, the lineup for, I think, 5 weeks. It was very cold. And at that time, I was working also at York University, the School of Continuing Education. Can you imagine that coming to the school, going, for the strike for 3 hours in that, let's say, cold weather. And then after that, I had an evening class at York University, and all my colleagues at Seneca telling me that why you are, doing this type of, let's say, I don't know what to call it. Is this a life? But I had to, because I am the only one that is responsible, to do a living for my own life, to pay, the expenses. And one thing that I learned here, and I loved it, to bring the food on the table. So these are, the things that I learned. And then little by little, I got, the contracts. But you know what? This is, one of my questions, that why not my chair, whoever has been, I have been, with different chairs. I think this is, the fifth one. Why didn't, giving me the ideas that, Mitra, do you want to be a partial load? Do you want to be a sessional? And you know what? They tried, to tempt me that, Mitra, we can have you for a sessional contract. But when I got the ideas that, oh, Mitra, you can have, the partial load to keep, your seniority, to be able, to have your own voice for example, if there is, a job posting, then you are able and you are qualified, for applying to that job. Then I said that even, in one time, I do remember that I told to my former chair that, listen, I don't want more money, even, I need it, but I want, to have more stability. That was, my sentence to my chair. So this is, something that still after 10 years, I'm struggling with. So you asked me about, the impacts of such a type of precarious work on me as a professional educator with 31 years of teaching and researching experience. I have done a lot to get me to where I stand now. So I'm going through a lot. Still I'm experiencing, even, with the messages coming from here and there, that there is a cap on international students. Even, this morning I got, a contract, just a message that, oh, you can, check your teaching assignment for the winter 2025, but listen, it's happening, maybe, some changes in the first 10 days of classes begin. Can you imagine that, how stressful it's going to be on me? That, okay,
That's
even,
right.
they are giving me, a partial load contract for the winter, but you know what, Mitra, don't be happy. This is, 50-50. And then that makes me even, worried about myself. And this, continuous stresses, because of the job that I'm having, it has impacted my health and also emotionally. I do remember that during the years of 2012 to 2017, 18, before, pandemic erupted, I had to work in 3 places. And every institution here has their own learning management system. You have to do lots of training. You have to educate yourself on how to input your messages, your weekly, let's say, materials to inform the students. Can you imagine that at the same time, in addition to your personal email, you should have, check 3 other emails, work-related emails, full of, emails from colleagues, from students mostly, from managers, from chairs, from deans. It's a lot.
How do you manage to do that, to have 3 different accounts on?
I had to do it, Benjamin. Honestly, I had to do it because you know what? I'm just doing all of these to prove myself to my managers, to the people who are hiring people, hiring qualified candidates. But you know what? At the end, I just, found it that, Mitra, this is not something about you. This is not something about your qualifications. This is something about, the system, which is not working very well. And I think after, so many working, like this, and having, all the pressure of doing, this job as a faculty on us, the part-timers and the partial load faculty, it's enough. I think this is the time for the government and the post-secondary institutions, to acknowledge this and also to work on that this is, a serious problem. And we need, the time has come. There is nothing, more to stop and, think about it. Come on. You have to make changes to this system, which is not working very well. I'm telling you, this is not my thought before, immigrating here. I thought that, okay, with this qualification, with this education, I'm going to go there after a couple of months, doing, my best, getting, my certifications that I need. Then there are a lot of windows opening to me. But this is, this is me and this is my story.
I
Do I
see.
deserve this miserable life?
Yeah, I see. How about opportunities for having a permanent job? But then have you encountered some applications?
To be honest with you, I think I have applied at Seneca, I think more than 30 jobs. More than 30 jobs. Mostly they've been, faculty positions in my school. And even, in other schools, maybe, one or two that I thought that, okay, I can be, a good candidate teaching, their courses. And then, you know what, since 2 years ago, I said to myself that, Mitra, you know what? To be a faculty for almost 3 decades of your life, you have lots of, let's say, experience that all of them are at the post-secondary level. So why not, shifting and taking, all this as a package, which is really, rich. And you know what, shifting from faculty to administrative, mostly, managerial positions. But can you imagine that? Even, for those positions, nothing. I got interviews, but you know what? Stopped there and not letting me, to move forward. And when I asked, the HR, just giving me, feedback. And once I approached them and I said that, okay, can you just review my CV and tell me, Mitra, you don't have this or that, and because of this or that lacking in your CV, then you are not, a qualified candidate. Believe me, they didn't come up with any logical, reasonable reasons to justify, their, let's say, unfair hiring system. And they are just
I see.
advising me at the end that, oh, Mitra, you are a qualified person, you are this, you are that, but we recommend you consult resume and interview skills. Is this, the answer that I'm looking for? If I'm not a qualified candidate, so I sent you my resume, and based on what you see on my resume, you selected me to be, the candidate for the interview, right? And then still you are just, referring me to how to write my resume. I'm teaching, resume writing to my
Yeah,
students.
yeah, it sounds like an excuse that they don't have anything else to say.
So to me, honestly, but this is not a fair system. And at sometimes I think that I've been discriminated. I've
Um,
been racialized. I've been marginalized. And this is not fair. This is not fair. And this has impacted specifically this semester, my
well,
performance. The first week, that I was on my way going to school,
yeah,
I was just, thinking with myself that, Mitra, you do not deserve to have a full-time job in this school. And nobody feels responsible to tell you that what are your, let's say, deficiencies, what are your weaknesses. And then I started to pick up myself and say that, okay, Mitra, you know what? Just change your face, wear the other mask, be happy, go to the class, and do your best with the students.
so it's affecting your physical and mental health.
Exactly. And you know what? Let me just tell you, this session, this is, the first session in my entire life back home and here as an educator teaching, for 30 years that, I'm feeling behind of what I've usually been doing for my classes, like, marking my stuff. Because, I'm interested and I'm inclined, to procrastinate. And I don't know why. You know what I mean?
I
So
see
it
it.
has impacted even, my not teaching quality, because it's still, I do believe that I'm the best. I've always, let me just, correct myself. I'm not the best, but I always have done my best as a teacher, as a colleague, as a friend, as a coworker. And I proved it to myself. And if you just go around asking about me in my school, you can find out more about me. But you know what? Because of this, let's say, system, which is not helping me to get myself, to find myself, my real, let's say, position. So I see that, no, this is not me anymore. And it has impacted me negatively. And I'm telling you that I'm sometimes, get behind my schedule. I think that, okay, I'm just going to go to my class, presenting my materials, assigning my students do this. But I see that this is not, Mitra as she used to be.
Yeah, so it sounds like you're being burned out. And how about in relationship with your colleagues? How's your relationship with your colleagues, with if they are other partial loads or with full-time colleagues? What's that environment, the culture in?
To be honest with you, I haven't had any conflicts with any of them. I've always been respected by them. If I've been, with them in, let's say, any event or any trainings or any, let's say, field trips, this has been always, a connected community. So I myself always feeling that, especially, my partial load faculty, I mean, colleagues, and also
Uh-huh.
the ones who got hired, for example, recently after, experiencing the same story like me and you and many other people, they always, try to talk to me and saying that, Mitra, we understand you. And this very, let's say, simple sentence that, Mitra, I understand you. I've been, through the same, let's say, tough time like you, that you are going through it. But you know what? One day, sooner or later, it happens. This is, a good feeling, right? Because they are sharing, their own, let's say, bottom and heartfelt sincerity and, emotions that they are sharing, with someone like themselves.
That's right.
But this does not solve my problem, right? But I always felt respected, connected, and it seems like, we are just, one big family. So this is, my feeling. Yeah.
Oh, I'm glad to hear. I see. And how about with the students? They know your partial load. Do you see any kind of difference in how you relate with them, what they
Yeah,
think of
this is,
you?
a good question, because as I told you earlier, as a, let's say, a faculty, I was not able, to recognize the differences between part-time, partial load, and sessional, right? So the same applies to our students. My students, when see me in front of the
I see.
class teaching them,
That's right.
they think that, oh, she's a full-time faculty. You know what I mean? Because they do not recognize what's happening. And they were worried about, the strike. Okay, this session, I mean, a couple of weeks ago, but still, because, it's something like, in coma. I haven't heard about, the strike updates. But anyway, students always asking me that, Mitra, what's going to happen, to the strike? Are you going to go on a strike? I said that I have no ideas. If we get any updates, for sure, I'm going to share it with you. So this is, one of the things that I have observed, that our students do not know anything about what we, the partial loads or the part-time faculty, and our status in the institutions that we are teaching. But sometimes, because my job as an educator, reflective practitioner, being, in this field for 3 decades, I think my job is not just, teaching the content. My job is to give, information to my students about what's happening in the world, what's happening, in the institutions. Sometimes I get them involved, in not politics, but what's the news? And I see that they are really interested,
And
sharing their opinion. But I, keep it like,
I
within that
understand.
domain, not, let's say, exploding. You know what I mean? But about, this type of job, yes, I tell them that, hey guys, I'm a partial load faculty for 10 years. And you know what? I can read their faces. They do not believe it. And when I talk about, the differences between these, they say that, aha, now we understand. But still, I do my best. I keep myself, let's say, motivated, because other than that, it's not me. Even, I go through a lot of things in my personal life, private life, whatever. But you know what? When I go to class, I put, all my package behind the door, go to the class with a happy face, energize my class, do my best, teach the content, advise my students, and then say bye to all of them. And then you know what? Leaving the class again, grabbing my package, and you know what? All the time struggling with those extra thoughts, which are really,
Yeah,
not
I
good.
understand.
It's not good.
And
This is
have
not
you
what I
shared about
expected to
some of
see.
these with your family, friends?
With my family, because I'm living here alone, so I don't have, any family members and relatives here. So it can add, another, let's say, tough time to people's life like me, right? When you don't have any family support here. I have quite, a bunch of good friends, but none of them, working in this field. Okay, you understand? So
Yes.
even, I talk to them at the end, even, they are educated and they are doing, some other types of job, but they are all educated professionals. They tell me that, Mitra, oh, after, so many interviews and you've haven't been, successful, maybe, you have to think about changing. And I said that, how do you say changing what?
Huh?
Because you are not aware of what the reality is in the post-secondary institution and education in this country.
Yeah.
And my sister, who is younger than me, and she's been here, last year as a visitor. And I was, a part-timer last summer instead of, being offered a partial load. Can you imagine? And I didn't know that this is, my chair responsibility or the program manager to refer me to another, let's say, campus to manage, my hours, right? This term, this past summer, I got it. And I did, all the communications between myself and the manager in the other campus to be able to get, my partial load contract. And I see that all of these are something that should be clarified by the chair or the
Yeah.
program managers in any campuses. So my sister told me that, Mitra, why you are working so hard? I said to my sister that, dear sister, this is just, a part-time job. Stay here with me for a partial load and then see that I don't have any free time for myself. And teaching here is a very demanding job. So prep before class, then while you are in class that you have to showcase your best. And then you know what, when leaving the class, still, you're not done. I'm always, at my computer. When I'm at home, at least for 10 to 15 hours. And it has impacted my physical health. And you know what? I'm not receiving anything
How
from
about
the
the package,
college.
the health, yeah.
Coverage? Yeah. You know what? Honestly, again, years back, I think in 20, maybe 16, 17, and 18, I think when I got, the partial load, I was not aware that I have, that package. Maybe you say that, Mitra, you're lying. But honestly, Benjamin, I didn't know that I have, let's say, half benefit insurance that I can use for massage therapy, for physiotherapy, and for some other, let's say, coverages like that. Step by step, little by little, I found it out by hearing, from here and there from other colleagues that, oh, Mitra, why not, using your benefits? I paid for my drugs, for my medicines, and I couldn't do, any massage therapy or physiotherapy because, every session, 45 or 1 hour,
Yes.
it's going to cost a lot. And you know what? Whatever I'm just gaining, from my partial load teaching, this is just, to pay my expenses of life,
Yeah,
pay the rent, pay my, let's say,
yeah,
credit
that's
cards,
right.
and, what other expenses we have. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it wasn't that helpful ultimately, the package.
Okay, years back, no, but now I know it. I know that this is, my right, and I have, this, let's say, half insurance package, then I'm using it. And I take, the massage, the physiotherapy, and I try, for example, they are paying my medicine because I have,
I
let's
see.
say, regular medications
I
because I have,
understand.
some other issues right now. So I'm happy. At least, part of it is covered.
I'm glad to hear. And have you tried to qualify for the full coverage?
As a partial load,
Yeah,
I haven't heard about
like,
that, and I think
yeah,
that
I've
I have
talked
no
to
idea.
other partial loads, of course, and this is my situation too. There is a chance to to join in. But we need to inform that, at a certain amount of time, I guess, to HR or administration, I'm not sure, and if we miss that, then we need to, and I've missed it, and many people have missed it, we need to wait at least 6 months of not working for the college to apply. But nobody can.
Then if I'm not working for 6 months, then from where I
Exactly.
should get, my income to pay my expenses? You know what? These are not wise decisions to me. Even, as a partial load faculty, that we have,
Yeah,
one reading week.
that's
We are
right.
not paid for that, right? And when my contract is done, for example, by the end of December, my
Yes.
contract is going to be done, right? And then I have to start since, I think, January to have, my new contract. Even, this period that I'm working, contract by contract, back to back, this period, which is about 2 or 3 weeks usually, is not covered. So it has happened to me. I go to the drugstore and I ordered, my medications, and then the specialist checking, my file on their, let's say, outlet, and then saying that, oh, Mitra, your insurance says that it's been declined. It's not, let's say, covered
Oh,
by
I
your
see.
insurance. Can you imagine that in front of that person? How do I feel? And even, she is laughing at me saying that, Mitra, what is this system that you're working for? Even, for 1 week or 2 weeks, it's been terminated, and then I have to wait for another 2 weeks to get it back. This is really, honestly,
Yeah,
ridiculous.
something very similar happens with our emails too, when at the end of each term,
You receive an email that, oh, you know what? This has been, the last date. And you know what? This is not good. This is not good. This does not have, good impact on us. But I'm just wondering that, okay, we have, different hierarchies, right? Managements. They don't have any, let's say, supposition, or they don't have any thoughts about these conversations.
I see. Or maybe they don't take it as seriously as it should be taken. They don't take it as seriously. Have you voiced these concerns before?
Um, you know what? In the past, I think 1 or 2 years, I decided, to be heard by someone who is responsible for this. So I tried, to reach out to some of my reliable full-time colleagues and talk to them very honestly, saying that, okay, you know me at least, for 10 years now. Even, we are not teaching, maybe, or teaching the same courses, but we've been, in touch together in the events, in the, let's say, some professional development sessions, whatever. Can you tell me that what I need to improve myself and to be a successful candidate if I get, any interviews? Honestly, all of them. They told me that, Mitra, this is, something that even, us, when we get, the successful, let's say, when we get, the full-time job, we didn't know that, okay, for what reason they hired us. Because when we compare ourselves with you, we see that you have, all those qualifications. Even, you know that we receive, some reports from, I don't know, what's the office? There are so many offices and
Yes.
managements at Seneca that sometimes you get really, confused. But there is, an office doing, these surveys
Yeah.
at the end of the term. In the past 2 or 3 semesters, I can tell you, and I can send you a copy, that most of my surveys done by my students, apart from those
Yeah.
students who have, attitudes for any reasons that I don't mind, but you know what, I got even, in some of those, let's say, criterions, I got, 5 out of 5. Even, I know myself as a tough teacher, and my students also recognize me as a tough teacher. But you know what? I'm really happy to be called a tough, hard marker. But you know what? At the same time, if you pass a course with Mitra, you're going to use whatever you learn in your future. Let's say, studies and also career. So it seems like, student surveys does not have any value. It seems like, at Seneca, nobody values your education, your degree, your experience, your professional developments. Even, being a partial load faculty, believe me, and working now in 2 places, but before even, in 4 places, but I don't have that capacity anymore. So right now teaching, in 2 places, but at the same time, I'm trying, to keep myself up to date. I do a lot of professional developments, and I'm doing, at least 1 presentation in any conferences related to my job as TESOL, teaching English as a second or foreign language. So you go and ask around, how many of partial load faculties trying, to keep themselves like this? I'm not saying that I'm the only person, but I think there's going to be a few of us. Because you know what? You cannot manage your life. Because, in order to be a researcher, in order to be someone, sit and write something, to present it, and on behalf of Seneca College, I represent Seneca College in all the conferences, in all the presentations that I am doing it on a regular basis, at least once annually, on behalf of Seneca. This is my affiliation. And this is, the way that Seneca is
I
appreciating me.
understand, that's horrible. Yeah. And I see.
You know what? I understand this, that some people prefer, flexible hours for their job, whatever they do. Okay? This is, their lifestyle. But this is not my lifestyle. I want to have 1 full-time job, knowing that Seneca or anywhere else, this is, the place that I'm working as a full-time faculty. This is my responsibilities and duties as a faculty. And then you know what? I wish I had that chance to spend another half of, let's say, my contract on writing something, doing research, being involved with Seneca organizational culture, to do something, because I have a lot. I've been, a full-time faculty. I've been a chair of the faculty. I've been running, conferences. I've been doing, research at university level. I've been, with a semi, let's say, governmental or institution for 10 years. I've been, the academic program. I've been, the counselor. So I've been, in TESOL, Ontario Board of Directors. I've been serving, in that board for 3 years. I've been sitting, on 3 different committees deciding about, the future of ESL teachers, and none of them values to Seneca. This is really amazing. And then I see that they are hiring people who join Seneca after me. I'm happy for them. I'm not a jealous or narrow-minded person, okay? And at sometimes I say that, okay, Mitra, maybe, they have been doing, better than you in the interview. But you know what? This is not fair. People joining after me, and they've been hired,
So that has
full-time.
happened. That has happened already.
Is this, what you expect? Yes, it has happened already. And I know at least, 3 of them, both faculty and managerial positions. And still, do you know that when you receive that email, that is very, very disappointing and disheartening, that, oh, dear Mitra Rabiee, this is to notify you that unfortunately you were not, the blah, blah, blah. Can you imagine that dumps you in the day, and you know what, you lose all your hopes? But because you know what, I'm a very resilient person. And finally, I'm hoping, to get a full-time. But you know what? At what age? Age also matters, right? If I had the opportunity of joining Seneca 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 4 years ago, even, this past summer, can you imagine that how positively it could influence my performance? They hired, for a position. There were 3 positions. They hired, the people with bachelor degree, not let's say, a PhD
In terms of
degree.
your
What is
qualifications,
this?
Mitra,
They,
so you have the graduate degrees? Oh,
I have a PhD. I have a PhD in applied linguistics, which is equivalent here to adult education. I did it, my credentials through ICAS in 2013, and they recognize it as a PhD in adult education without asking me to take some extra courses, for example, in U of T or York University to be eligible, to be, let's say, given that credentials. And I have done a series of
yeah.
PDs, a series of presentations. I have 10 publications. So where all these go? And you know what? I have had colleagues working with me in different schools, even, at Seneca, but they've been lucky. Why? Because you know what? They found out the right person in the right context at the right time. And they got hired. For example, one of them in another college, Centennial, just working, there, working in Seneca, I think for a couple of years, maybe, 2 or 3 years. And then, you know what? Just being promptly hired by
Oh,
Centennial. And now
you work
she's
at
there.
Seneca first and
She's
they went to
super
Centennial?
happy. Yes. And then got, the permanent job after just, doing one interview. So this is, a matter of luck, right? But I haven't had, even, that luck, at least, in the past 10 years. I have, other colleagues, leaving Seneca and going and get, some other better jobs. So you know what? If I'm going to do it now, it's too late for me. Because you know what? If I join, for example, Centennial, I've been with Centennial in 2014. I have, that employee number with them. They offered me, 2 years ago another job, just, doing, a partial load contract or part-time. And I said that no, I don't want, to do more jobs like this. I'm looking for a more stable job.
I understand them. So you told them, damn.
I told them, yes. And I told, my previous chair that, you know what? You are trying, to convince me to get, more hours to teach. But you know what? Even, everybody likes money, right? Nobody hates money. And money, even, for me, is not my top priority, believe me, as an educator. But you know what? This is, something that I needed. But I didn't accept her offer to get the sessional contract. I said that no, I prefer, to keep my partial load
I
contract.
see.
Because of what? Because of, having, more in the hope of, being able to, let's say, I don't know, to serve myself and to secure myself a full-time job. But 10 years passed and nothing has been changed. And only, you know what? Despair, demotivation, depression. So this is, what you expect
Yeah,
at this level? If I were, in my 30s, I wouldn't mind. But you know what? They say that age does not matter. But believe me.
I see, I understand, yeah. And what are your, if any, hopes for the future or thoughts about the future? What would you like to be seen changing in terms of policy or attitudes? Any thoughts you may have about that?
You know what? Yeah. Before interviewing by you, I tried, to do some research because, online search engines, they can, give you lots of information. And as a person who's been, in this system for 10 years now, I know at least, to some extent the ins and outs of the system and how it works. To me, there is, only one solution. And it goes back, to the government. So increase government funding for post-secondary education. This is, one of the, I think, on the big scale, one of the solutions. But at the same time, this is, I think, the responsibility of the post-secondary institutions, including universities and colleges, to model the type of, let's say, employment and work arrangements that should be the norm in this society. And as I mentioned to you earlier, if students coming and let's say to our schools and, for example, getting to know all of these discrepancies, they feel that, okay, this is what seems to be a normal norm in this country, but it shouldn't be like that, and it needs to be changed, to apply some changes. And I think, to me, this is the best time for them, for the post-secondary institutions and the government, to acknowledge that this increased precarious work may be a necessity. I do not, let's say, reject it, because what now? There is a cap on
Yes.
international students, right?
Mhm.
So this is actually, some limitations on the institutions. So maybe they have, to lay off some of us. Maybe, they have to minimize the work hours, the teaching assignments. But this is, something like a necessity. They can, work on their, let's say, the future type and, whatever. But this is also a problem. So this problem should have been addressed much earlier. But now we are in 2024, and in Strike 2017, I got to know some of my colleagues in other, let's say, fields of studies and other programs, saying that I've been, at Seneca for 17 years and, being offered back-to-back contract, but never hired. So to me, back then in 2017, that was just, the first 2 years I joined Seneca. It was something that I couldn't digest. I couldn't believe. But now, through time, 10 years passed for me. And now I see
I
myself
see.
like that.
Well, Mitra, thank you so much for your powerful words, and I appreciate it, especially as a fellow partial load. I'm gonna stop the recording now, and thank you once again for being with us.
Thank you so much for giving me that opportunity to share, my opinions, my ideas, and the hardship that as an educator, and I'm just, one person, but I think I can be, a good, let's say, example for other people doing the same better than me in this profession, teaching at colleges, universities, but is still, suffering a lot. And I think we do not deserve such a, let's say, life. We
And
deserve
thank
a
you.
better one. Thank you.
Your story can make a difference. Share your experiences to advocate for respect and fair conditions for all partial load faculty. Learn how to share your story. Read more in the caption below. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support the work we do together. Follow us on social media for updates and to stay connected with OPSEU Local 560.